Welcome in again. Another edition of Where the 99 Lead. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, and a special two-part show on the way today. First off, joined by Kyle Wilson, men's bowling coach at the University of Pikeville. Kyle, welcome in to Where the 99 Lead.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Of course, the bowling program, one of the most popular programs at the University of Pikeville. Ron Dameron and yourself, coaches of the men's and women's bowling programs, and it's something we love to follow because it's been successful from the start. We want to talk about that today, but first, let's meet Kyle Wilson. Let's talk about where you come from and how you arrived at the University of Pikeville.
Well, Andrew, I'm from Mount Vernon, Ohio, and at age 8, my dad got me involved in bowling, and I've been involved in bowling as a competitor or a coach or a tournament promoter for the last 35 some years.
Right.
And I started an organization called the JTBA, which is the Junior Tournament Bowlers Association of Ohio, and that's how I met Ron Dameron, who was the current athletic director down here at Pikeville College. And he was bringing his daughter, and he told me he wanted to start a bowling team down here. So he basically recruited the 2004 national championship team out of our organization up there.
Wow.
And then, of course, 4 years later, he won a second one, and then a couple years later, he won an NAIA. So I'm a graduate of Mount Vernon High School, 1982. I'm also a certified baseball umpire on the collegiate and high school level, and I also did about 10 years of high school football in Ohio before I moved down here.
So on both sides of the spectrum, as a coach and as an official as well, I would imagine you started bowling at age 8, probably in some of those bantam leagues, and I know that's where the love is born for many young bowlers, if not even younger. You've been around bowling all your life, and now the University of Pikeville, known and respected nationally. Let's talk about the UPike men's bowling team. How's the season going so far, and what's coming up?
Well, we've been very competitive this year. We've had a second, a few thirds, and a fourth place finish in the events we've been at. We were ranked 6th in the nation about 3 weeks ago. We didn't go to the Thanksgiving weekend tournament, so we dropped a couple spots. I believe we're 8th in the nation. Coming up here Sunday, we're leaving for Las Vegas. We're bowling 2 big events out there, 2 Tier 1 events, which are double points towards the rankings, and I'm really optimistic we'll be very successful out there. And then we have our 2 conference tournaments coming up in the second semester, one in Richmond and one in Lexington, and then we have our conference championship tournament in Louisville, as well as sectionals and the NAI championship, and hopefully we'll make it out of sectionals and get to nationals this year.
Yeah, and of course, the NAI adding bowling recently. Had not been an NAI sport until just recent years, but more NAI schools are participating in bowling. And before we talk about that, let's talk about the rankings, because we know in other sports the rankings, they may mean something leading up to, but until tournament time, they really don't mean a lot. But let's talk about college bowling and the Baker system and collegiate bowling. Explain first what the Baker system is.
Well, the Baker system is a game that's a 10-frame game that's bowled by 5 players from the same team. Basically, your leadoff guy will bowl the first and 6th frame, second guy will bowl the second and 7th, 3rd and 8th, 4th and 9th, and then your anchor bowler will bowl the 5th and the 10th frame. And it's scored just like a regular game of bowling, only there's 5 guys contributing to that score. All of the championship, the USBC National Championships, and also the NAI Championships are where teams are seeded into a bracket. Then they bowl 4 out of 7 first person to win 4, first team to win 4 games wins the match, and then they advance in the bracket. And they're all double eliminations. So basically, that's what it is.
So as opposed to, I immediately had golf come to mind, where a team, each individual will play a full round, and then you are scored that way. Bowling's a little different because the entire team participates in each game rather than a bowler going out and you have 5 bowlers bowling their own individual games. It's truly a team sport.
Absolutely. We do the individual games. Some tournaments will have the first day, which most tournaments we go to are 2-day events. The first day will be a team individual games where 5 guys will bowl an individual game, and then their score will count with the other 4 players on the team to get a total. But then usually all the second days are all Bakers.
What's coming up for the U-Pike men's bowling team besides Las Vegas? That sounds like a great trip.
Well, yeah, I mean we're 7. We've done 7 or after Vegas will be 7 events for the first semester, and like I mentioned, we have the biggest collegiate tournament in the country is the Hoosier Backhaul Direct Hoosier Classic, which will be in the mid-February, and then the 2 conference tournaments I mentioned. We have those coming up as well. And Northern Kentucky's actually running a tournament this year. We're going to go up and bowl that as well.
Bowling popularity is growing here in the Commonwealth. I know a lot of times you've had to travel in the past for even a home match, travel out of state. Some of those have been held in Ohio, I know. But bowling is certainly growing in popularity with more matches taking place here in the Commonwealth. Do you see that continuing to grow?
Yes, I do. I would like to see it grow a little bit more. Actually, I'd like to see it grow at the high school and middle school and elementary school level here just in Pike County. We have an excellent bowling center that we bowl out at Classic Lanes here in Pikeville, and I would like to see some kind of development of young talent here with our college program here. We have a bunch of certified coaches here that could even contribute to but I'd like to see it get into schools because I think that would be a key for us developing, recruiting down the line, and just in this area.
Talking with Kyle Wilson, men's bowling coach at the University of Pikeville on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. Those 99 steps lead to the University of Pikeville campus, and many bowlers have come from outside the region to Pikeville just to be a part of a nationally respected bowling program, both on the men's and women's side. And Kyle, the NAI added bowling recently. Are you seeing more NAI schools adding bowling as a sport?
Absolutely. About 4 years ago, there was 20-some schools, and I think we're up to 45 now. So it's definitely growing. If you go to the NAI website, we're an emerging sport, and I think in another year or two they'll probably pick us up and we'll be an official varsity sport.
Yeah, and of course the bowling championships, the collegiate bowling championships prior to that, consist of NCAA, NAI schools. They were all lumped together. Talk about that organization.
Well, the USBC runs what they call the ITC, Intercollegiate Team Championships, and it does include all those schools that you mentioned, NCAA schools. They have to follow the same rules that we do to qualify for those tournaments. They also have their own individual championships as we do with the NAIA. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, it makes it a more competitive field when we can bring the NCAA schools. Now, college bowling in the NCAA level just has women's bowling. They do not have men's bowling.
Right.
So we're just basically a club sport in the eyes of the NCAA.
Right. But on the NCAA, I know on the women's level, you've got all the big schools. Wichita State, I know, is one that comes to mind that the women have competed against. Morehead State, of course, also locally well-respected bowling program. More NAI schools adding the sport, of course, the Mid-South Conference. I know there have been some tournaments with some teams there. Do you foresee, is there an opportunity for Pikeville to be able to host a tournament? Where is the closest location that Pikeville would be able to do that?
Well, bar Brunswick bringing in 32 lanes to the Expo Center.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it because I wouldn't want to pay that bill. But, we have classic lanes. There's a center in Williamson, West Virginia that the concourse is more inviting for a team tournament. It's about 35 miles away. And, I would love to run a conference tournament down here, and it certainly could happen if we could get some working on it.
What's the minimum number of lanes that you would need for a team tournament?
Well, for a conference tournament, we have 8 teams in our conference, so we need 16 lanes. That's exactly what Classic has here, and then Williamson has 20 lanes. So we definitely could pull it off. And I've talked to some proprietors about it, and they would be willing to bring in bleachers. And because if you've never been to a collegiate or even a high school bowling tournament, it's the intensity level inside the bowling center is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredibly intense. It's an electric atmosphere for a college or a high school bowling tournament. Kyle Wilson, head men's bowling coach at the University of Pikeville, our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. And without a lot of high school bowlers, where do you start your recruiting process? Where do you travel to, and where is your focus area for bowlers?
Well, when I first got here, Ron Dameron had done a pretty good job just recruiting. So we were ranked, and that always helps with when these kids go to look at colleges, they're looking at who's ranked in the top 10 or 20. So being ranked in the top 10, 15, 20 over the last 10 years has really helped. You're absolutely right. I don't have too many bowlers from Kentucky on my roster. We have on our varsity team, we have El Salvador's, 2 Puerto Ricans, Bay City, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Huntington, West Virginia, and Utica, Ohio are just the 8 bowlers that make up our varsity program. But we also have, we've had a kid from the Dominican Republic. So we've had a couple international players.
Sure.
I've got some other players coming in the next semester from Puerto Rico, and then in the fall we're going to have a good class coming in.
Of course, the University of Pikeville, a well-respected bowling program on the national level. And as you are on the recruiting trail, Oklahoma, Puerto Rico, as you talk with these players, and they've done a little research on college bowling, how quickly do they realize that, yeah, UPike, I know that team, I know that program?
They're very, very quick. They usually contact me. I get an enormous amount of requests for people that are interested in attending the University of Pikeville. When we go to the college fair in July at the National Junior Olympic Gold Tournament, there's 1,500 athletes from all over the country.
Sure.
And we'll talk to 400 or 500 kids on a Saturday at the college fair that they have in conjunction with that event. And I get a few players from there as well.
Very good. We'll be following the men's bowling team during the upcoming tournaments, and of course want to wish you luck on the rest of the season, and best of luck in the NAIA tournament and the USBC tournament as well. We're looking for you to make that trip to nationals.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew, and appreciate it.
We've been talking with UPike head men's bowling coach Kyle Wilson. Coming up next, we'll talk with interim athletic director Robert Staggs on Where the 99 Lead. Welcome back in. Where the 99 Lead, of course, brought to you by the University of Pikeville. We talk all things regarding the University of Pikeville. We talk academics, athletics. We talk the Kentucky College of Osteopathic Medicine. And today we focus on athletics. Kyle Wilson, of course, our guest earlier, talking about the men's bowling program at the University of Pikeville, and one of the top bowling programs in the country, not just the NAIA, but joined now by interim athletics director at the University of Pikeville, Robert Staggs. And Robert, welcome to Where the 99 Lead. You and I go way back, and I'm not sure there's a time that many have been at Pikeville College that Robert Staggs wasn't at Pikeville College. For those that are just tuned in, let's go back there. Let's talk about your career at Pikeville College, when it began, and talk about some of the many different roles that you've played at the college.
I've been there, Andrew, as you know, quite a bit. Played a little basketball there, and dabbled with baseball one year, and then you were there, and they kind of dropped the program on us, and finished my academic career and dabbled in some sporting goods, and went back and was an assistant baseball coach, assistant women's basketball coach, assistant football coach for a year. Let's see, what else have I done? Head coach volleyball, head coach softball. I mean, you name it, I've pretty much done it.
Yeah, you've been around nearly every locker room on the UPike campus at one time or another.
I have. I think the only sports that I haven't coached is golf and bowling.
So Robert Staggs, longtime fixture at the University of Pikeville, and prior to that at Pikeville College. And if anyone knows the history of the program, Robert Staggs has lived it over the last few decades. And now you take over the role as interim athletic director at the University of Pikeville, still head softball coach at UPike as well. Just finishing up the fall semester, fall sports wrapping up, and we now head toward basketball season. Both teams having successful starts. Let's talk about the fall sports, though, and how the seasons went. Of course, Dudley Hilton's UPike football team, 7-5, I guess, and the first winning season, I believe, since 2005.
It was, and Dudley had a very good year. He started out 3-0 with a big win over D1 Morehead State.
Sure.
And when we started out 3-0, I think we got up to we ranked 24th, maybe 23rd in the country.
Right.
And then kind of hit the Mid-South, the juggernaut, I guess, Mid-South football, and started out with Cumberland, University of the Cumberlands, who beat us pretty good here. But they beat everybody pretty good this year. They're playing this Saturday. They're playing in a national championship game. So we want to wish University of Cumberland's best of luck and bring home a national championship for the Mid-South Conference.
Football team lost a couple of games that were very close and really very winnable games that got away from the Bears. And then you mentioned the other two losses coming to highly ranked teams, one being Cumberland's, who happens to be in the national championship game. And what a tremendous football program. And it's one of those programs that's always been one of those teams in the Mid-South Conference that you circled the date on the calendar, not as a winnable game, but knowing that you're going to be in a football game. They've got that rich and deep tradition. That's what Dudley Hilton's been trying to build. Building the program, you have to establish depth.
Well, Dudley, very, very successful high school coach, and he's kind of still kind of getting his feet wet. Sure. in college, and and Dudley will be the first to tell you it's a different animal in college, and especially playing in the Mid-South Conference. You're looking at the SEC of the NAI.
Right.
I mean, you've got to strap it up every Saturday, or if you don't come to play, you're going to get your brains beat out. Right. And Dudley's done a very good job, and he'll continue to do well.
And of course, the soccer programs, both men's and women's. We've seen a transition in the men's program. A former player recently named the head men's soccer coach at U-Pike. But both programs had important wins this year over Mid-South Conference teams, and we see those programs continue to grow.
We do, and like you said, Adam Johnson took over our men's soccer program halfway through the year, and we had won a big game, our first ever soccer conference game against St. Catherine.
Right.
And then Adam jumped in and did a phenomenal job the rest of the year, and ended up beating Georgetown last game of the season. Beat right. Georgetown on the last second goal, but Adam's did a very good job, and it earned him an opportunity to be our head coach for years to come.
Yeah, and with a former player, I think that brings an added passion to the program because he's been part of the program. He wants to see it succeed and get to that next level to where it's competing for championships in the Mid-South Conference, and I think that goes for all the sports as well. Improvement in the volleyball program as well.
Very much. Shannon jumped up and went 14 and 21 this year, right. Doubled her wins from last year, and actually has a very good group of girls. They may not realize it, but being a former volleyball coach, I can sit back and watch how they have improved, and she's done a phenomenal job getting kids in here, and I really believe she's one recruiting class away of being able to compete in the upper echelon of the conference.
Right. And brought that excitement back to the U-Pike gym on the lower campus. That's the home of the volleyball program, but we saw some excitement there in the gym that we hadn't seen in a few years, but it was back. It's
back, and again, Shannon's done a wonderful job with them, and her and Leah Harris are out on the recruiting trail right now, and they're going to bring in some kids that can play, and if we can keep the nucleus of this class here, then we'll compete. We'll compete next year.
Of course, another sport that has a spring season but also has a fall season is the golf programs. They had some tournaments this fall that they competed in, and we continue to see press releases of new signees in the golf program. They're out on the recruiting trail as well.
They are, and our men's golf coach is Kevin Alton, who Pikeville guy. Graduated with me and way back in the day, and a couple of years before you, and Kevin played at Morehead State, and he's done a great job recruiting local kids and bringing in some very good golfers around the central part, eastern part of the state. And Kevin's the type of guy that gets out in the summer, and he's on this. He gets out and plays in a lot of tournaments, so he's very visible, and people know him, and very good golfer and very good teacher. And our women's coach is Nelson Scott, a local kid,
Sure.
local guy, and Pikeville High School guy. And Nelson's a pretty good golfer in his own right, and he has gone out and gotten himself some very good golfers.
Yes.
Our women's golf program has done a 180, and he had just signed a kid out of Scott County who is one of the top golfers in the state. So we're looking for good things for Nelson to come.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the baseball program, while technically not a fall sport, they had some fall workouts, and then they have this blood series, I guess some inter squad that goes on, but continuing to work hard, and we've seen vast improvements in that, and we'll see more of that in the spring.
We will, and Chad Gassman does a great job with their baseball program. Him and his assistant coaches, and they work those kids real hard, and Chad real hard, real good recruiter. He gets out and getting some kids, and his main thing now is he's got to find arms.
Sure.
You know, it's this Mid-South is as tough as it gets, and he has some midweek arms. He has to find him some arms for the conference, for his conference.
Of course, pitching, it's always about pitching, not just baseball, but softball too. It all starts there, and if you don't have quality pitching, then you can't score enough runs. So that's what you guys are always looking for. Another sport that seems to be year-round, and that's the bowling programs, as we've talked with Kyle Wilson. Then, of course, also Ron Dameron's women's team. Nationally respected programs. They competed in the fall, and then, of course, they'll wrap things up with hopefully national tournaments in the spring.
Well, you can't say enough good things about Ron, what he has done with our women's program, and you know, you look at Kyle, what Kyle's done with the men's program, and if it wasn't for Ron, Kyle would be at more national tournaments than anybody we have on the campus, and both those programs are very good for the university, and you know, with Ron with 3 national championships under his belt, I mean, what can you say? He's his own worst enemy.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, the tennis program, they'll crank up in the spring, looking for a lot of success there, some international players as part of the tennis program as well. And then we can not leave out something that many say, well, that's not part of the athletics department. Yes, it is. And some of the best athletes on campus are the cheerleaders and the dance programs.
Well, tell Jeannie Stone they're not athletes.
That's right. She'll define athlete for you.
Oh, Jeannie has done a great job
Yeah.
with our cheerleaders, and they're practicing right now in the hoop center, and I think their conference championship is coming up March 2nd in our gym.
Wow.
So I would invite everybody to come out and watch them perform.
Of course, last year's Mid-South Conference cheerleading champions as
Defending
well.
champions.
Jeannie Stone, synonymous with winning and championships in cheerleading, whether it be the high school or now the university level. Robert Stagg's our guest on this edition of Where the 99 Lead as we wrap up the fall sports season. Basketball, the winter sports season well underway. Both teams off to great starts.
Yes, Kelly's won. Gosh, I can't remember what his record is right now, but he's ranked 3rd in the country.
9-1.
9-1. Had a 4. Both teams went 4-0 over the weekend. Joanne McNamee's doing a great job with the women. She's going to get out and do some recruiting, bring some kids in. But she is a very good coach. That was a great hire to bring her in, and we're looking for great things from her and from Kelly the rest of the season.
Robert, UPike was recently named a Champions of Character 5-star institution. What does that mean for student athletes at the University of Pikeville, and what goes into earning that distinction?
Well, Andrew, it's about character, doing community service, doing what's right in the classroom, getting out and doing the right things. And we have all our athletic programs get out and raise, do some things for the community. Our softball team did a food drive for a homeless shelter over Thanksgiving. You have both basketball teams go out and read to elementary schools.
Sure.
And things like that. It's a big deal for our university.
Not just teaching sports, but teaching life lessons and teaching the student athletes how to be members of the community the way it should be.
Exactly.
And champions of character, indeed. We've met so many of these student athletes. They truly are champions of character. And you'll see that continue at the University of Pikeville under the leadership of Robert Staggs, interim athletics director and head softball coach. And you run the ship. What's coming next for UPike Athletics?
Well, hopefully we can get us a national championship in basketball this year, and Ron and Kyle do well in their national tournament, and let's see what happens.
There you go. Robert Staggs, interim athletics director. Thanks for being here, Robert.
All right, thanks, Drew.
We'll talk again soon. Robert Staggs, interim athletics director, on this edition of Where the 99 Lead. Where the 99 Lead, brought to you by the University of Pikeville, the leading university of Central Appalachia.